Okay, we are now recording and we are live on YouTube. And it is 7 o'clock. So welcome everybody to the RASC-Kingston Center May meeting. I'm glad that you could make it. For members, non-members, and people that are on YouTube, welcome. When we have our speakers, we will mute everybody as you are now, so that our speakers are not interrupted. However, after their talk, you can have some questions, and anything that's being questions on YouTube, Kevin will provide those questions to the speakers. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's hope I can do this. Okay, you see the agenda. Yes. Okay. So welcome everybody. I want to introduce our executive to who is here. Susan, I don't know if you're on right now, is our treasurer. Lori, who is our vice president. Kevin Gell, who is our newsletter editor. Acer, I'm not sure if he's on yet. He is our secretary. Francesco, our librarian. We have John, who is our national council rep. And we have Rick Wagner, is he on yet? Is our past president. And Walter McDonald, who is, I'm not sure if he's on, but he is our webmaster, along with Kevin Kell, who looks after the web page. So that is our executive. If you have any questions, you can send a note to kingston@rasc.ca, and we will pass it on to the appropriate person that you're asking the question to. So the Kingston, the RASC Kingston Center is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year, and we would like to have your favorite astro recipe, because we'd like to put them all together, and we're going to have something set up on the website to share. Also, we are looking for somebody who can bring together the Kingston Center history and put it into a poster, or any suggestions for other items that we'd like to do for our 60th anniversary, since we can't really get together in person, at least not yet, but sort of hoping for the fall that we can. And we'll see what we can come up with. So put your thinking caps on and how you would like to celebrate the Kingston Center 60th. The National Membership Database Driven is up and running. It went live over the weekend of April 30th to May 3rd. Members need to log into the secure.rasc.ca with their email address and create a new password. You have to press forgot password, then create the new password. Make sure that all your information is okay. And if you were signed up to any forms before, please go and sign yourself up to those again, because they did not automatically happen. The Kingston Center form is not on the RASC website, even though it might say it is. That's the old form. We are actually on Google Groups. So do not sign into the national list that's there for the Kingston Center. Just a reminder that the moon at noon is happening tomorrow. It just gives you a heads up into the Observe the Moon program, and it'll help you sketching, finding certain craters at the different Q nodes that they have, and the different times throughout the month. So it's a fun way to get observing. It gets you out there, and it happens across Canada. So it's quite fun, actually. Fallen Stars, possible dates, September 10th and 12th at the South Bay Campground. Will happen at PEC, and Belleville will lead it this year, so stay tuned. And Susan Gagnon is the RASC-KC contact if you have any questions. The RASC General Assembly is going to be held June 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th. virtual field trips to ALMA and the U of Alberta Meteorite Lab, as well as a notice was sent out to members to sign up today. You can go to the RASC website, rasc.ca/General Assembly, and it will take you to the link on how to sign up there. So without any further ado, I will hand the floor over to David Levy, who's going to give us the introduction for the night and some poetry.
Well, thank you so much, Kim, and it's wonderful to be here. You have really honored me, but with these Zoom sessions, it allows me to come to every meeting, every Linkaroo, and really get to know everybody again, and it's a real privilege. My poem tonight is perhaps my favorite poem and most Canadians' favorite poem. It's from the cremation of Sam McGee. And I'm just going to quote to you the last few stanzas that have a lot of astronomy in them. It's almost as if the poet was looking up at the stars as he was composing this. It goes like this. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a look inside. I guess he's done. I guess he's cooked, and this time I looked. Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile. And he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warned. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights. I think they've done that in the last month. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lac La Barge. I cremated Sam McGee. Thank you, and back to you, Kim.
Thank you, David. And speaking of Northern Lights, hopefully we will see some tonight. It was up to a K index of 7 earlier this afternoon, so we may actually see something tonight if the clouds will take off out of the sky. That'd be great. So our first speaker for this evening is Mark Cody, who is going to talk to us about the Peterborough light pollution and the trials and tribulations that he has had and the successes. And Mark, over to you.
Okay. Here we go. And put into a slideshow. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Are everyone hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
There you go. So Mark Cody's Peterborough Light Pollution Abatement Progress Report. I was a director of light pollution abatement for the Peterborough Astronomical Association, October of 2004 to December of 2006 and 12, and again from 2016 to 2020. And we found that with our successes, we really don't need a director of light pollution abatement, because since 2004, the following has occurred. Light pollution abatement is now regulated in the noise bylaws as something likely to offend people. And it's also in the property standards bylaws of 7 of the 8 townships that make up Peterborough County. The building and planning departments in both the city of Peterborough and the county now include light pollution abatement in decisions concerning commercial and institutional properties. New commercial and institutional construction, as well as renovations or changes to the exterior of existing commercial and institutional properties, must submit site plans that show how light trespass will be avoided. Now, I got to sit on an environmental advisory committee working with the city of Peterborough for the new casino, and I saw the plans for exterior lighting that the city planning department sent back to the developer for changes. And then I got to see the revised site plan that met with my and the city's planning department approval. All streetlights within the 8 townships that make up Peterborough County, as well as the city of Peterborough, have been changed to full cutoff, low temperature LED fixtures, 3,000 degree Kelvin. I believe Kingston's got something like 8,000 degree Kelvin. But these provide negligible uplight, and it's a whitish gray kind of glow that they put down. Peterborough's light dome has changed from an orange to a whitish gray, and it's a silver sliver of its former self. Now here's some photographic proof showing the changes were taken by PAA and our RASC unattached member, Rick Stankiewicz. This is from 2008, and this is from Armour Hill or Ashburn Memorial Park that's beside the lift lock. That's pointing to the northwest. You can see the orange glow of the street lights. Now, the white blob along the horizon, that's Walmart and a popular mall called Portage Place. So we're going to fast forward to 2019. And the changes are quite dramatic. You got very little uplight. You still have Walmart and Portage Place, but we've made a significant progress. I'll just go back and show you the change there, the change here. So with our success of light pollution abatement, we feel it's done. What we continue to offer ourselves and our successes as an educational resource to other astronomy clubs, environmental groups, and municipalities and private citizens. And that's it. It's short but sweet. And I can stop my share.
Awesome, Mark, and not only for the short display.
That is very good. That is quite the difference in the nighttime skies. Have you actually taken any SQM meter readings to see what the difference was from 2008 to the new year?
2008, it was 19.32, and it's now 20, it's over 21 now.
That's excellent. That's excellent. That's good. I know Kingston, from our backyard, when we first moved out here, we had the orange dome that everybody seems to have had. And now we have the white dome, which seems to be actually worse than the orange dome because it's higher up in the sky. And but our nighttime readings have still been around 21.4, so not too bad. Does anybody else have any questions for Mark? You have to unmute yourself.
I'd just like to say that it's amazing that you've achieved this level of success. And what your persuasion is, I do not know, because it's hard to get people to roll over to this kind of thing. Like, big deal, a bunch of astronomers. Or night sky, oh yeah, it's going to kill me. No, it's not going to. You know, the light pollution is going to kill me. But you've done fantastic work, and it's well appreciated because it could start to set standards across Ontario and who knows where else. So thank you, Mark.
Well, thanks, Hank. Basically, I started with my own township, which is a population of 16,000 that borders Peterborough on the north end. I got them to agree. And then the service provider that they chose asked me if it's okay he uses my presentation to go to the other townships in Peterborough County. And then I had a couple of members of city council that were from Peterborough that were on my side. I let them know what I was doing, and they got in touch with that same service provider, same company. And as it turned out, because of the economies of scale, the original cost was going to be a lot less. And the only figure as far as savings that I've gotten is actually from the city of Peterborough. Energy and infrastructure savings are in the tune of 800,000 a year. That's over 7,000 lights. So yes, everybody's saving money, and the sky. You can see the Milky Way in the average backyard of Peterborough where you couldn't before.
That's amazing. And do you know, were any of these people astronomers? Any of the service provider or anything? Were any of them kind of
Well,
inclined that way?
the service provider has worked with other astronomy groups.
Okay.
I don't know which one, he didn't tell me, but also I've got a couple of stargazers on city council that helped, and the people in the townships and the county government, a lot of them, you know, are very appreciative that they can see the night sky a lot better as well. And the streets are better lit, and everyone's, except for people that have moved up from Toronto that are used to being blinded at night, everybody's happy.
Well, as my last comment, I think that if you would like to move to Kingston, we could maybe help sponsor your move.
Is there any reason why Walmart hasn't bothered to dim their lights?
They just haven't gotten on board. Their lights predate everything that I've done. They are full cutoff. It's just that they're overpowered. And yes, we've tried to convince them. Maybe you should change them to lower wattage bulbs because you don't need them.
The second picture with the low light levels, was that taken during Earth hour? Because it would seem that everybody had their lights turned off then.
Yeah, that was Earth hour, but it was also like both images are taken at Earth hour. Now that was a cloudy night, and so you're going to see a reflection up in the sky. And I think Earth hour has lost its luster because a lot of people aren't getting into it anymore. But still, you know, we took the pictures, and that's the view you get every night.
Great, thanks very much.
I think as a project for the center, it would be kind of nice to put a map of the area that you observe from, whether it's your backyard or you actually go to another observing site, and actually take the SQM meter reading if you have it. The center has one that can be loaned to you, just so that we can get an idea what the sky brightness is doing. Because as I know, that our sky is not as dark as it used to be, even though we had the glow from Kingston with the orange bulbs. The white blue lights that Kingston has is very intense.
Kim, there's a website you can go on. I believe it's lightpollutionmap.info. It's there's a link on the Peterborough on the light pollution pages of the PAA's website, and that's peterboroughaastronomy.com. And if you launch this map, it starts off like over the Czech Republic. You got to scroll over to North America. You can hone in right to your own location, and you can see how light pollution has changed from, I think the first data is from 2015. And I've been able to, just with Peterborough, see from year to year of the progress that we've made. And so you can do the same with Kingston.
Well, that sounds good, because it would be nice for us to go back even when we did the work with Queen's University and they actually turned the lights off on campus. It did make a difference. It really did. And it would be good to see how our skies have changed over the years with the new lights that have been put in, because each individual township seems to be going LED, but they don't seem to be using the same sort of wattage of bulb. So does anybody else have any questions? David, I wanted to ask, what's your sky darkness like? Unmute, dear.
How's that? Is that better?
That's better.
Sorry, I was speaking in Latin. Kim, thanks. A good question. I don't have a sky quality meter here. I was just looking it up, see if I could get one, but it's pretty good. I mean, I can't give you numbers, but on a really good night in the fall and winter, I can go outside and in our backyard, look up, and I can see Messier 33 without a telescope. And that's about as good as it needs to be for me. But I don't know what the number is. I would guess it's around 20.
Kevin here. I'm just looking up some notes on cloudynights.com, and I believe you were within a few tens of kilometers of Portal, Arizona. They're coming up as 21.75.
Portal is near where our Portal is very near where our Chiricahua Astronomy Complex is. And that night you go outside when you're out at CAC. You go outside and M33 is like jumping out at you and grabbing you up from your observing site. As though it's darker than I am here, a little bit darker. Then I get home and I wonder that this site isn't so bad. And one of these days, the observatory will be redone and I'll be actually able to have a nice summer of observing, I hope.
I would think, David, if it wasn't 21, you wouldn't live there.
Oh, I think so. And the other thing is, the question that was asked, are there any astronomers on that city council? And I think that to define an astronomer, if someone looks up at the sky and says, what star is that? And then he or she looks up in a book and finds out that's Vega. And then he goes out again or she goes out again and says, that's Vega, I've just discovered a star, it's Vega. Then that person is an astronomer.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. As long as the interest is there, it
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
makes a difference.
Wonderful, wonderful work.
I like that.
Getting the sky as dark as you have. And I hope Kingston can do that as well. And I hope our observatory here at the Jarnac substation of the Kingston Center in Arizona will also be able to get its sky a little bit darker. Would be nice.
And David, you'd be interested. We had one street light on our street that was, but it was owned by Hydro One, but no one was paying for it. So they said, "Oh, we're going to take it out." And I said, "Okay, go ahead, take it out. Just makes my sky better." My individual township, which is now called Selwyn, it's the amalgamation of Smith, Ennismore, and Lakefield. And they have a policy now, if you don't have street lights on your street, if you want them, every property owner has to sign on. And they're not getting that, so it's staying dark, which is fantastic.
I think that's wonderful. And I think that's partly thanks to you, Mark. Thank you. That's wonderful. Really very pleased with what you've accomplished.
Well, going back to 2007, and I had that article in the journal about fighting light pollution, and we haven't stopped, but now it's time to just get out and observe and not worry about chasing governments, because we've done it here. And I've got astronomers in other townships like Lindsay, which is called Kawartha Lakes now. And I've given them all the information they need. And so we've spread the gospel. Hopefully it takes effect.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Just wonderful.
That's great, Mark. Thanks. Peter Hutchinson had a question. What was the Bortle number? Do you know what your Bortle number is?
I looked that up and replied in chat.
Okay.
My
All right.
Yeah.
the Bortle number at my place is pretty. It actually, the sky's a lot darker than the Bortle number indicates, but at the CAC site near Portal, the Bortle number would be pretty close to 1 or 2. It's a very, very dark site, and I just love going there. I just love it.
I think we're at a 4 from what I've when I put in the numbers for the sky reading. We're about a 4.
Yeah,
4 isn't bad, Tim. 4 is not bad at all.
Oh, it's not bad. It could be better.
Yeah, it could be better, but it's not bad.
That's right.
Good for a kick in the teeth. I think that's not bad at all. Good work, guys and gals.
Okay. Is there any more questions? If not, we're going to carry on with our next speaker, who is Hank Bartlett, who is going to talk about Hank's sunspot.
Oh, that's me. Okay. All right, let's see here. Hang on. Share screen and hold it. Where's my, that must be it there.
Is that today's pool?
Yes, that's today's pool. And actually we got the new solar cover on today. Kevin, a clear one.
Shiny
And
thing, you're being distracted. Focus.
It
Focus.
looks,
Sunspot. Sunspot.
it looks good. It looks really good. I know everybody, but you just got to deal with people that like pools as much as clear sky. Now I'm trying to, there we go. And now we got, have we got a full page Hank sunspot there?
Yes,
Yep.
you are good to go.
Okay, good go. I can't remember if I mentioned before, did anybody notice Rick's face in the middle of this with his long goatee? Looks kind of like the devil. Just said looks kind of like, didn't say it is. But that's an honest to goodness image. Okay, so Hank's sunspot. Hey, what's going on with the sun? Hey, everything's going on with the sun. Regardless of cloudy days and everything else, we have activity revving up a little bit. This past 4 weeks for solar activity from April 15th to May 12th, we've had 9 active regions from 12/8/15 to 12/8/23, a maximum X-ray of 10 to the minus 4.4, which was our 3.9 M eruption. 27 C-class eruptions, counting the last one today. Until now, it could be, well, I guess we're past, almost past the day, UT. 2 M-class eruptions, being an M1.1 on the left-hand side of the screen on the 19th, the M9 3.9. Did I say 9.3 before? I probably did. M3.9 on the right-hand side of the screen. It's been a good month, like I say, regardless of the crappy, cloudy, 5-day sessions of cloud and dismal life in COVID. Hank has had 13 observing sessions, not that anybody cares, but that's what it is, the fact. Now, this graph here, which I absolutely love, was created by Kevin Kell from data obtained through the SCG, Starlight Cascade and Gardens Observatory antenna, the Jove antenna, and I like it especially because it's red on white instead of black and a lot easier to see, and being more detailed to the individual time period, it shows the spikes that occur during an eruption like this and really gives you a story of what's going on. This is fantastic, and I'm going to have to start referring to Kevin and Kim's observatory radio telescope a lot because it just helps out with everything that's going on. It's so nice to see it in this kind of detail and gives you a story of the activity period from, now part of this, I can't, oh, hold it back, back, hold it, there. I've got the bottom of the screen is in the way, oh there, I'm gonna move it up out of the way. Sorry, the share bar was in the way. This occurs from 1906 to, let's say, 1917. That's 11 minutes that this eruption took place. And to see all this going on a graph and see this all going on at the time would be fantastic. But of course, it was too late in the day to see it from here. but I have seen this kind of thing go on and see these changes. But like I say, to relate to the graph after the fact even is amazing to see the amount of change that's going on in the solar surface. This image here is the sunspots we've had in the past 4 weeks. 8/14 was from last month, but 8/15, 16, 17, 18 coming on the left-hand side of the image in the left, the eastern side, and then 19, 20 and 21, and finally 22 and 23 on the right-hand side that are still visible. And I hope you can see on your screen the difference, although it is blown up a lot bigger, the difference in the right-hand image, which is now using the Herschel wedge and the Botter continuum and UVIR cut filters. Amazing. I am so glad I bought this thing, bought the Herschel wedge. I already had the filters, but the difference using the Herschel wedge compared to Botter film, and I was hooked on Botter film absolutely over glass, but now Botter film, I would not say to anybody that it's not worth buying. It's definitely a good filter, but the Herschel wedge, and when you compare the two, the cost price is you know, a lot different, but the Herschel wedge is amazing in the granularity of the surface. This image here is from one of our members, and I did not put their name on here because they did not tell me I could post it, but I'm posting it anyway. And it's a very nice image showing 4 different active regions. And if that person would like to speak up right now and own it, it would be really nice. I guess not. Okay.
Who is that?
Who is that? There she is. Yes, Kim. And actually, if I was to lighten this a bit, there is actually right down in the southeast prominence showing there. And this is, you know,
Yeah.
as Kim is going on with this camera and everything, I envy her so much because the granularity and surface features are so much better than DSLR.
Oh,
And I cannot.
it's different. We'll put it
wait.
that way.
Oh no, it's not different. It's better. It's definitely better. It's definitely better and sharper and more granularity in H alpha. And I think you're doing amazing work. And once you start really heavily processing, and I did not put one of those images on because that was me that did that, not you. And I didn't want to, you know, do anything that way, but you're doing great. And I think this is an awesome image and I look forward to many more of them coming ahead. It's just, as I said to you, going back to this, why would they create a camera that does not get a full image of the sun or moon in? Our 2 biggest neighbors, and they created a camera that would not fit them entirely in.
So you buy another one.
I know, that's exactly why, because they want you to buy the next one. So, is your birthday coming up soon or something? You know, no, it's not till November, is it? Yeah.
A while. No,
Yeah, it's a
no,
while.
it'll be a while.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, here's my 4 favorite images of the month up till today. And this is just showing the amount of H alpha prominence and filament activity that's been going on over the month. We've, even with the low amount of activity as far as sunspots, we have had some pretty good activity as far as prominences over the past months, the past 6 months, 8 months, during this low period, but just not as often. And this one in the upper left, you know, a nice long bridging prominence in the east southeast or southwest, east west southwest, and the southwest, And then in the upper right, we have a wonderful arching, almost double arch with a long filament going across the surface of the northeast. And then this one the other day in the lower left, the long needle-like prominence that was sticking out was very faint until I got it onto the computer and saw it, and it was amazingly long and straight and sticking out like a branch or a twig sticking out of a tree. Fantastic. This is the sunspot there is 822, just below it. And on the right-hand side, there is the next day, 822 again. You can see the amount of activity change in 822 as it brightened up and the spots became more defined. So things have been going really good at the Raw Observatory. And now I've been showing over the months the solar graph from the sun today. And we have been running between 10 to the -7 and 10 to the -8, and even down to almost 10 to the -9, even hit it a few times. And that has been really sucky. But as you can see, we are staying well up into the 10 to the -7, 10 to the -6 area on an average. And on the 22nd, having multiple eruptions in the C zone, and then a low, if you can call this a low anymore. If this is what low is going to be, a 10 to the -7th in the lower left there, I'll take it because that's a beautiful low. Then on the right, we had lower right, we had our M3.9 eruption here. Again, another image of that. And it just keeps on peaking. And this is the kind of activity we want to see for about the next 5 years, and just getting better and get into the X zone. Now, I was going to end with that today, but then I got out this morning and got a few solar images. It's been a very hectic day here. Wine, you know, the grandchildren for afternoon school and all that stuff. But this is a partially processed image with the Herschel wedge and the Botter continuum UVIR cut. And I'm very pleased with the granularity and the sunspots, 822 at the top, 823 at the bottom, really coming out really well. Like I said before, I'm very happy I bought this. And now into the H alpha. And a couple of people mentioned that they didn't see much in H alpha online or in real time, but as you can see in the southwest here, there was an amazing amount of flame, a little bit of bridging and individual H alpha. Maybe that's due to the double stack, but it was a great morning out. And the most important thing between these two images, was it was the stillest, clearest, sharpest air I have seen in a long time, probably since last fall. And I'm very pleased with it all. Now, last thing is, as Kim mentioned earlier, get out there tonight after the meeting's over, take a look. It has diminished some, but if this can kick back up to a 10 or a KP7, we might get some aurora tonight. Unfortunately, this morning it was KP7, but it was over the Pacific Ocean into Japan, and it would have been easily visible for us, but we had daylight skies. Thank you all, and that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Hank. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, I was out there. It was kind of, like you said, it's hard to pull yourself away, but I think I went out about 10:30 and it was afternoon before I came back in. And yeah, there was a lot of activity on the sun. I was actually doing a lot more of the surface detail work where it was looking like 2283 might flare because there was a couple of white hot spots that
Yeah.
were you
In the
know,
Plage?
just ready
Yeah,
to go. But then the clouds came in and I had to do other things, so I had to stop. But I haven't processed anything from today yet, but it was quite fun out there. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Hank?
Has anyone seen Northern Lights in the last little while, or?
No. I haven't seen any good Northern Lights since 2004.
Yeah, but this may be a chance that something might be.
This may be
Yeah.
one of the chances.
Okay.
But there are chances ahead, Bruce, and you be ready to take the advantage because.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Hank. That was really nice to hear.
I do have one question. When you look at that dome of the Northern Lights in your projection from NOAA, is the Earth rotating underneath it so it maintains that? It's kind of like a backwards C look, like as it changes. But I was just wondering, is the Earth rotating underneath it as it goes along? So, or is it basically moving with the Earth's atmosphere?
I see that it rotates with the time and atmosphere, and they bring it around, and it seems to dip lower, if I'm right, over our area. Whether that's a physical thing due to landmass or what, I don't know. I don't understand the electronics of it all. If somebody else does,
it's because the North Magnetic Pole is in the Canadian Arctic. It's not centered on the orbital pole.
well, it was, but it's in Russia now.
No, it's moving.
I still
But
believe
it's
you.
still
Yes.
well inside Canada. When I went up to Eureka, I took a compass along, and the North Pole was actually south of us.
Russia is trying to claim it, but damn it, we still own it, and I don't care what they say. It's on our side of the border, and I agree with you, Mark.
Speed has moved up though.
In January of 2020, just before the pandemic hit, I went on the Aurora 360 expedition to Whitehorse in the Yukon, and we took a flight that crossed into the Arctic Circle. And even though there were no sunspots at the time, boy, is that Aurora gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it for the entire night, and it was just lovely. I hope you guys see one tonight. I really do. And you will see one sometime because the sunspots are climbing up. Excuse me, and with the sunspots climbing up, the auroras are going to climb up, and you're going to get a pretty good treat in the next year or two, I think. So look forward to it.
Okay, we have a member, Brendan Roy, who's actually on the national board. But Brendan, you're from Thunder Bay. Do you get to see anything?
Yes, actually, for Northern Lights in the last little while, we've had a few displays of the month, which is probably the first time in a couple of years that we've had really good ones. So they're coming. They're definitely coming.
That's great.
I think we've had two displays that have basically filled the sky twice now in the month of April. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a little more Northern Light activity.
That's great. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm glad you found the link. I posted it everywhere I could.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Okay, for our next, we have Rick Wagner is going to give us two presentations, but the first one is going to be What's Up in the Sky in May. Rick, you're up.
All right.
Oh, look at that.
So speaking of aurora, this is my shot from 19th of November, 1991, I think. I think almost everybody in the room here is old enough to remember film. So this was Fujichrome 400 film, an f1.8 lens and an f2 lens and a 5-second exposure. So this is by far the best display that I've ever seen. So events for the coming months, a lot of BAA and AAVSO activity. The BAA radio astronomy section has 2 meetings. Next Saturday, a week and a half from now, the AAVSO is having 2 webinars, one on red supergiants and one on faint galaxies. 26th of May, the George Alcock Memorial Lecture. 5th of June, another AAVSO webinar, your first observatory. The theme is Keep It Simple, which, I guess if you're a beginner, but so anyway, it'll be, I know there's people amongst us who are building or are interested in building an observatory, so that'll be a good one to see. The 9th of June, BAA Sketching Deep Sky Objects webinar. I think that's something that'd be really interesting. I'd like to see more people sketching. It's nice to image, you get a lot of detail and stuff, but you're not really observing. Sketching, and I've done a little bit, but it's really a good way to focus your attention and your observing. And we have a couple of new fast radio burst podcasts on the University Observatory site. And they're good. I always enjoy those. The 2 dark sky viewing areas are both closed due to COVID motion restrictions. Darkness, well, we're only in early May and there's already not a lot of darkness left. You can see we're down to sort of about halfway through between now and our next meeting, 28th of May. We're down to 4 hours and 10 minutes of astronomically dark skies and 15 and a quarter hours of actual daylight, sun in the sky. However, for the solar people, the sun is getting higher. It's getting up to nearly its maximum altitude, 68 degrees, as we finish out this month. Activity in the sky. The 12th of May, there's going to be a very, very thin crescent moon, about 29 hours afternoon, just to the left of Venus, very low above the west-northwestern sky, about a half an hour after sunset, which is, I can't remember what time sunset is, but you guys all run out to look at it. And I'll pretend I'm going to finish my talks. Tomorrow, 13th of May, the moon will have moved a little further up, not quite as narrow a crescent, but it'll still be very pretty. And right next to Mercury at magnitude 0, again in the west-northwestern sky shortly after sunset. First quarter moon on the 19th, full moon on the 26th. 28th of May, Mercury and Venus come very close together in the west-northwestern sky after sunset. 0.4 degrees apart. Venus will be dead obvious. Mercury will be 270 times fainter, so you may need binoculars to see it. 2nd of June, last quarter moon. 3rd of June, 63 Ozonia is at opposition at magnitude 9.7. 6th of June, Juno is at opposition. Of course, that's one of the early discoveries of asteroids, so that's always a good one to see. And then the 10th of June, officially, this is after our next meeting, so I shouldn't really be mentioning it, but it is a partial eclipse of the sun at sunrise. I thought we should get some warnings out there so that we're not announcing it at the meeting sort of 10 hours before it starts. So the sun, it's actually an annular eclipse if you're up in northern Ontario and off into Russia and stuff. But for here, it'll be a partial eclipse, and the eclipse will already be well underway at sunrise. But maximum eclipse from here is actually, I think, something like a half an hour after sunrise, and it's like 85%. So it'll be very dramatic, and I'm sure we'll discuss this further over the coming month. Make some plans to observe it. So here's your moon for the month. You can see full moon yesterday or today. We're definitely in the dark conditions, and the moon is increasing from now on. But of course, we're all working on our Explore the Moon certificate, so we're glad to see a moon in the sky. Kevin mentioned a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I can't remember now, about Galilean moons, mutual events. When the plane of the Galilean moon's orbits intersects with the Earth and the sun, we can actually see the moons go in front of each other or eclipse each other. Now, there's a big long list. If you go to page 223 of your Observer's Handbook, there's a big long list of them. But I went through the whole list, and there's only 3 that looks to me like Jupiter will be in the, reasonably high in the sky and visible. So these are the 3 dates: the 20th, the 25th, and the 28th of May. So these should be quite interesting. They're all eclipses, which means the shadow of the first moon, 1 or 3, goes over and blots out the other moon. So I'm going to definitely, if I can, get out and try photometry of some of these events. And that website there gives you a lot of information on the events, and it's a team that's actually doing research into the timing and so forth of them. So if you're interested, you may want to check that out. Not too much in the way of asteroids this month. On the 30th of May, there's an occultation of a star by 184 Dejopeja. And on the 9th of June, an occultation by 1529 Oterma. Neither of these are particularly dramatic or stunning, but I'll keep an eye on them, and as they get closer, we'll discuss them in the chat room. So you can see the first one by 184, Kingston is well within the predicted path. The blue line is the edge of the predicted path. And for Oterma, Kingston's just barely in the limits, but the red line up near the top of the map is the 1 sigma displacement. In other words, if there's a 1 sigma error in the path of the asteroid, almost all of us, in fact, I think all of us would be included in the path. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick. Anybody have any questions about observing that's coming up over the next month?
Was considering driving up to Geraldton to see that annular eclipse, but with COVID going on, it's probably not the best idea.
No, it's pretty tempting though.
Yeah.
I think Robert was there. I think Roger was actually talking about going up someplace up to Quebec a while ago.
Roger's not here.
No, he's not here, but in one of our chats, he had talked about going up to Quebec, but I don't know if he made any plans or not. So we'll have to find out if he's in next week's chat or not, if what's happening. So if there are no other questions, use your observer's handbook to pick out the events. And if it does clear up tonight, go out and take a look at the nova that is in Cassiopeia, because apparently it's down to a magnitude that we can view. Magnitude 5.5 is what it's been stated at. So that would be nice to see. And apparently there's been a couple of, there's also another supernova in Aquila, I believe, that they're looking for some visual observations for. I think it's V803 Aquila. So if not, if there's no more questions.
Just if I can just say one thing
Yes.
here. With regard to when Rick was talking about the Galilean moons and the eclipsing, did any of you see online about the recent one? I had never seen anything like this. And it's amazing that they would line up that well. And I can't remember which moons it was, but one eclipsing the other and crossing and shadowing or transiting. Fantastic. If you haven't seen this kind of thing, even if you can't look at it with the scope, look at it online after the fact, go to the sites and see it, because to see the shadow of one moon crossing the other, that definitive, that small an area that matches up, amazing. That's all.
Excellent.
Could I just ask a quick question? So you were talking about the nova in a constellation that was, would that be, which constellation was that? The first one you made?
There's two of them. There's
Okay.
one that's off of Cassiopeia,
Okay.
and then there's one that's in Aquila.
In Aquila?
Yep.
And so are these, would these be visible by naked eye or with binoculars?
The one in Cassiopeia you'd probably, if your eyesight is really good, you might be able to see it. Because they were saying that it was 5.5 magnitude, but it could be, could be down to 8. It really depends on your eyesight. So binoculars would be better.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. There is one more thing that's happening, and according to Mark Richardson, there is, where is it?
It's an Astronomy on Tap. So
right, Astronomy on Tap.
That's virtual. Yes, May 20th. It's on virtual world as everything is these days, but it's a place to connect, and it'll be hosted on YouTube. But I put a Facebook link in the chat where you can find out more information. Thank you.
Quickly, can
That's
you tell us
great.
what time it is?
Oh,
Yeah, it should be starting at 7 p.m. And it usually runs till 8:30.
and the beer's cheaper.
The beer is a lot cheaper, but just have to bring it on your own.
And you don't have to worry about a DD, I've never been to one of these, but maybe I should try this online, because it would just be the point that you don't have to drive home, you don't have to pay for the beer,
It has almost everything going for it, except that we don't get to actually have your presence.
Yeah, we could call it the RASC Tavern,
Excellent. Thanks for letting us know about that, Mark. Okay, so our next presenter is Rick Wagner, who is going to be talking about Leaside Observatory.
Okay, so last month I talked about the building, and I mentioned the fact that I have a telescope that the building was intended to house. So this telescope, here's an overview picture of it, kind of, to give you some idea of the scale. It's large. The telescope was constructed by Paul Boltwood in Stittsville near Ottawa. Much of the machining, ultra high precision machining was done by Harry James in Ottawa. A lot of the stuff is done down to a 10,000th of an inch, which is sort of much better than your average shop machinist. Unfortunately, after basically completing the telescope, installing it on the mount, there was an attempt to build the mount controller for it, which did not go as quickly as anticipated. And unfortunately, then Paul got sick. And after several years, decided that he was never going to be well enough to manage the intellectual work to complete the mount controller and then make full use of the telescope. I suspect Paul Boltwood running at 10% of his normal mental acuity would still blow us all out of the water, but nevertheless, he felt it was the best thing would be to get rid of it. And so he donated it to me. I offered to make sure that the telescope would be used primarily for science. We actually signed a little contract in which I stated that 90% of the images would be scientific and no more than 10% for pretty pictures and stuff. And I'm well above that. The unfortunate thing is, one of my plans was, once it was installed and up and running, was to invite Paul and his wife to the Ottawa Centre and give a presentation on the scope and the observatory. And unfortunately, just a few months before I considered it suitable for display, Paul passed away. And it's a great disappointment to me. He really was never aware that I actually did have it running. I'm sure it was not a major concern of his at as he was passing, but nevertheless, I would like to have let him know that it was being well used. So the telescope is a 16-inch, 0.4 meter f5 Newtonian. The primary mirror is an Astrocital low expansion ceramic blank figured by Peter Saravolo to about 1/10 of a wave. It includes a paracord. Paul Boltwood was always insistent that things should be done to the ultimate. So in spite of the fact that an f5 Newtonian gives a pretty reasonable image, he added a paracord 2 to take out the last little bits of coma from the images. And that extends the focal length slightly to 2.2 meters. He also gave me the mount and the pier and a QSI 583 camera to use on it. The tube is, let's see if okay, the mount first. The mount is an MI 750 on a steel pier that Paul had made. So the pier is 8x8 box tube with diagonal reinforcement welded all up the inside. How you do that, I don't know, welding inside a box like that. But anyway, the pier weighs 350 pounds, and the mount itself weighs, I think, 250 pounds or so. I hoist it on and off with a hook in the roof of the observatory. The mount did not come with a mount controller. Before I get to that, Paul was never satisfied with anything, so the Mountain Instruments, or Mathis Instruments rather, mount, he specified different motors, different gear train. It's interesting that the gear trains and the motors that are used on most of the mounts, there's not an integral number of rotations on all the gears, so that when the worm goes around once, you don't get an exact repetition of all the gearing. So the idea is that if you want periodic error correction, every time the worm goes around once, all the gears should go around an exactly integral number of turns. And so Paul specified out the gearing and the motor to be used, and that all had to be remachined and installed. Another thing Paul added, you can see the this little wire and a weight. It actually wraps around the polar axis. And what that does is it puts a little, just a hair of extra weight on the east side. And that ensures that the worm gear, or the worm, is always pushing on the worm gear. If the telescope is slightly out of balance, sometimes the gears slide to the west and the worm is actually pulling back on the worm gear, and you don't get as good tracking that way. And as I mentioned, the mount didn't come with a controller, so I had to buy something to put on it, and I got a Sidereal Technology Servo Controller 2, which I've generally been very happy with. It has all kinds of extra features like satellite tracking, periodic error correction. It has a mount model in it, so it actually can calculate all the deviations in your mount from perfect perpendicularity, out of round gears, anything like that, and greatly improve the pointing. And here's the wiring up the north side of the pier. You can see I have an outlet installed, which is switched from the wall. And that's what my camera is plugged into. And then all the various control and signal cables all run up the pier and off to the telescope. So the tube itself is made out of plywood. And I must admit, my first thought was, plywood? We don't want plywood telescopes. But in fact, Paul did extensive research into it and discovered that quality mahogany plywood impregnated with epoxy is actually almost identical in thermal performance to carbon fiber at about 1% of the cost. So this telescope, I rarely have to focus more than a couple of thousandths of an inch between -20 and +20. However, the plywood is not really stiff enough, so he added these stainless steel angles along the side. And of course, they're all very carefully, the mounting of those is very carefully designed so that as they expand and contract, they don't affect the tube at all. Let's see. The scope has two finders, a Telrad and an 80mm f5 refractor. Both of these are heated and illuminated reticles supplied with power from the telescope. So there's no batteries and stuff involved. And there is a rheostat to adjust the brightness on the reticle on the refractor. The whole telescope tube is sealed. You can see the back end of the tube has an aluminum plate over it with a large 24-volt fan in the center of it that sucks air into the back of the tube. And then there are two furnace filters that fit over top of that to clean the air that's going into the tube. The collimation bolts for the primary mirror come out through the sides of the tube, but we need to have those sealed. So what Paul did was he got little Tupperware containers, screwed the lid to the side of the telescope, and then you just push the bottom of the container into the lid and it seals up the hole. This is part of the primary mirror cell. You can see it's a 9-point cell, little Teflon pads These triangles tilt so that they carry the weight of the telescope, even of the mirror evenly. There's a thermal sensor here in the air coming in from the rear fan, so you can measure the ambient temperature of the air. And then there's also a corresponding thermal sensor glued to the back of the primary so that you know what the temperature of the primary is. And by comparing the two, you can decide whether you need to heat the mirror or not to prevent dew. And you can see that there is integral heating installed inside. This is all heavy aluminum box welded together. The side clips that hold the mirror sideways in the cell, you can see they have a thick plug of Teflon in them. And this block of Teflon is designed to have exactly the right thickness so that as the aluminum of the main cell expands and contracts, the Teflon expands and contracts exactly the right amount to compensate for that. So you can actually get 1/1000 of an inch clearance between the Teflon and the mirror, and it stays consistent over 20 or 30 degrees. You want to have access to the primary mirror to be able to get it out for cleaning and stuff. And so the whole mirror box is actually hinged along the bottom, and then you install pulleys into the ceiling of the observatory and ropes to allow you to lower the mirror box down without dropping it on your feet. This is a view of the inside of the tube. You can see it's very well baffled, lots of circular baffles down the length. And then opposite each focuser, there's an array of fins that prevent any light bouncing off the wall and into eyepieces or cameras. The secondary spider is all mounted on this plate here, and this is a double layer stainless steel painted black with literally knife edges on them, and then push-pull bolt arrangements on the side so you can collimate. In addition, you can see little micro switches here. There are actually 2 panels in here that are controlled by electric motors, and they can flip up to, they have holes in them. So what you end up with is 2 offset holes that you're looking through. So you can use that as a Hartmann mask for focusing. And they're both controlled by electric motors. The wiring, all the wiring for most of the electronics inside the tube heaters, the fans, the sensors, everything is all done inside the tube. So there's a DB25 connector here that feeds into all the interior wiring of the tube. And then this other bundle of cables goes off for the focuser, the camera, etc. So here's one of the collimation bolts. These are ball end joints, something like that. Basically, there's a spherical nut inside here that pivots inside this ring. And so as you screw this bolt up and down, it lifts the primary up and down. And it's very, very fine control. And then a locking nut underneath. So it works very well. And then, of course, you just clip your Tupperware back over it, and your tube is all nice and sealed. This is the secondary, and it's a very nice design for the spider. These are stainless steel vanes, which have to be very accurately machined because if either of them is slightly longer or shorter than it should be, then they don't line up perfectly above each other. And essentially the light, as it's going into the tube, sees two veins instead of just one. And the other neat thing about them is that they're offset. You notice they don't go through the center axis of the spider. So what it means is that this thing, the secondary in the middle, is very rotationally stiff. You don't have to have much tension on the vanes to stop your secondary from oscillating. If you have your vanes go are aligned with the center here, then this thing can oscillate back and forth rotationally. You see that there's a knurled knob here, so you can pull out a stop here, and the secondary can be rotated around to any one of 4 ports, one on each side of the telescope. Let's see, 2 of the ports have 2-inch Tektron focusers on them, low profile focusers. The 3rd port is currently unused and is just sealed up. And the 4th one is the primary port that the camera goes on. So this is the primary port. And you can see camera here has an additional fan over top of it to help with the cooling. The camera is bolted to a large plate, which is then attached to linear bearings on precision steel rails. And then there's a linear actuator stepper motor that basically drives a screw that runs the camera up and down. One of the problems with this is that, of course, the camera is bolted to this plate, so you don't just rotate the camera to find a guide star, for instance, or to get a better framing on an object. The other thing is that because Paul wanted the secondary to be as small as reasonably possible, the plate focuses in very close to the face of the tube. And in fact, without the paracore in there, which slightly extends the focus, without the paracore, you can't even get the camera in all the way into focus. This came also, the controller or the focuser also came with no controller. So I had to build a little Arduino and write software so that it's connected to a little hand paddle that I can use for manual focusing. And just a week or so ago, I found a website that talks about how to build or how to program ASCOM device drivers, and he makes it look absolutely trivial. So I will be writing an ASCOM driver for my focuser, and as soon as that happens, I will be able to do remote autofocus and everything. It'll be fabulous. There's the little hand paddle in its box on the wall for the focuser. And to supply all this, there are 3 power supplies, 24 volt, 15 volt, and 12 volt, I think. This is the Arduino and stuff that controls the focuser. This is basically just little switches and stuff to connect there's all these wires are coming from the telescope. So they control the fans, the flap motors, the heaters. There's heaters on the primary, heater in the secondary. They read the temperature sensors and stuff. And so for now, my intent eventually is to have all this connected up to 1 or 2 Arduinos so I can do a computer control. But right now it all just feeds off to a bunch of switches over here. And then I have one switch. Well, if we go to the front of the panel, you can see the control side. So we have primary heat, the rear fan, the front fans. There are small fans in front of the primary mirror to break up convection cells if the mirror is warm, and then the secondary heat to prevent dew on the secondary. So then this switch controls the power to the telescope, etc. And this is a main kill switch that turns off all the fans and everything. I keep the primary heat and the mirror fan on all the time so that the mirror is slightly warm. In Ottawa, my 8-inch telescope, you get out and use it all night and then pack it away, and the nice, cool, moist summer breezes blow through and condense on the mirror. And after 6 or 8 years of that, it completely ate the coating off my mirror. So I don't do that anymore. I now leave the primary heat and the fan on 24 hours a day. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Awesome presentation, Rick. Again, right after building the observatory, now the telescope, I'm just in shock and awe.
This is a whole new level of pillar mount scope envy.
It's a wonderful setup. Yeah.
It's amazing. Now show us some results.
That is wow. Like I'm lost and in shock, and
Yeah.
I would really love to see
I've
that
shot
thing in action.
Well, yeah. I tried to have an executive meeting up here once, but it never came off. But perhaps in the fall, as we get out of the pandemic, maybe we can have a bunch of people up to take a look through it. It'll be nice then too, because it'll get dark earlier. We can actually look through the thing. It's not really designed primarily for looking through. The eyepieces are a little inconvenient. They're always on the top or the bottom of the tube, and you can't reach the top of the tube. And when you're looking into the bottom of the tube, you're kind of peering upwards into the sky. But the optics are fabulous. When the sky is good, it's wonderful. I was finally able to, after 5 or 6 years of working on the Isabel Williamson lunar certificate, I was finally able to see the rill in the bottom of the Alpine Valley with this scope and image it. So that was a real highlight.
We don't want to look into it. We just want to look at it. No,
you gotta look into it.
Unless
you're afraid of ladders.
Yeah, we're all coming up there.
Yeah, I had not last year, the year before, for Astronomy Day, I invited all the neighbors all the way down the road to come down and have a look through it. And one of the ladies, you have to climb about 3 steps up a 6-foot ladder to reach the eyepiece, and she couldn't get above the first step. She just panic. So I had to get the 8-inch out to let her look through that instead.
I hope your barbecue is as big as your scope, because we're all coming.
I'll have to borrow one from the neighbors or something. But I've made good use of it. I think I'm up to about 80,000 images now with it. So
photometry or
almost entirely photometry.
Yeah.
Who did the machining?
A guy named Harry James.
Harry James.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't imagine he might still be in business. He was pretty old at the time. And this would have been, probably 12, 14 years ago. When I say pretty old, I mean almost as old as we are.
That's awesome. Anybody else have any questions for Rick? Come on, all of you DIY people out there.
They are all in awe, stunned, and
it's
amazed.
a different, it doesn't really match my category of DIY.
Paul was a professional, I don't know what you call him exactly, systems engineer. He designed engineering motion control monitoring systems for industry. And I know his wife was a little cheesed because he spent an awful lot of time on this telescope, and he figures between the price of all the parts, the cost of the machining, and the amount of time and effort he put into it, it's probably cost him $150,000. So
my house isn't worth that.
no, and the unfortunate thing, of course, is that nowadays you could replace it for, probably less than half of that.
That's
with
still
a commercial
big chunk
scope.
of change.
Yeah.
But not the quality or the exact imaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul used it, he used this scope on another mount. And he was observing BL lac objects, which are active galactic nuclei. And he was involved with a team in Sweden that was observing them. And they actually invited him over because of his observational work. They invited him over to Sweden for a meeting to show his results and stuff. And they made a joke about a thing called the Boltwood effect, because this object was being observed simultaneously right from X-rays to radio. And so they would have up a chart of everybody's observations, and there'd be, sort of 24 X-ray points and a couple of dozen UV and some optical, and then there'd be this just thick glob of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of points in the optical from Paul Boltwood, because they were sort of observing it once every few weeks when they could get time on an instrument, whereas he was observing it, 6, 8, 10 hours a night, all night, every time it was up in the sky, he was on it. So,
Rick, is this the mount that's based on the 12,000 kilograms of concrete you poured?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I put in the 6 or 7 tons of concrete.
Okay.
So thanks a lot.
Great, thanks you, Rick. So does anybody have any questions off of YouTube? No questions off of YouTube. So since we are pretty early tonight, actually, we got a half an hour left. Is there anybody who has anything that they would like to present that they might have? Oh, Kevin does.
Good evening. This will just take about 2 minutes or so. Let's see, how do I get Kim? Remove the spotlight. And somebody was mentioning, let's see, let's try this one here about Aurora. And I am trying to show, let's see here. Oh, well, first it was somebody was asking about Bortle scales and SQM meter readings. Are you seeing that now? So we're about a Bortle class 4. The 21.6 SQM meter reading is a little optimistic. I think Kim said we were getting a little lower than that. Okay, so now I had somebody was mentioning Aurora. This is our collection of Aurora photos, and if you notice that they start about 2004 and they end about 2012. And I can't say that we've had any recordable Aurora since then. 9 years of solar minimum. Oh my goodness. We're hoping to add more to that. And interestingly enough, we may have the opportunity tonight. And one of the things I wanted to show was that this is our All Sky 1 camera system running on a Raspberry Pi, which is inside that tube. There was only, it runs off of Wi-Fi, so the only cable going up to it is a 5-volt power source for the Pi. We've since added a 12-volt heating source for the dome so it doesn't condense. And you'll notice that it's slightly biased towards the north. Well, that's because that the original lens that we have on that system is not a true 180-degree field of view. It's the default lens that comes with a ZWO ASI 120 camera, which is 2.1 millimeter focal length, f2, and it says 155-degree view, but I think it's much less than that. So in this image, north is up, and in the top left corner, you see a little bit of a cell tower that Rogers put into our backyard 5 years ago or so now, and very little horizon. Well, luckily today, a box came for me with my name on it, and inside of that was a 1.5 millimeter lens. Oh my goodness, I was so excited. And take another look at this picture, see how much horizon you see. And this is what we see now. Oh my goodness, it is almost a full sky field of view. North is up, east is left, west is right. And unfortunately, south is a little bit clipped off again because this is an ASI 120 camera, which is pretty much the smallest sensor size you can buy in cameras. And as Hank said, they do that so that we go out and buy the next bigger size camera. But this is amazing. I am going to be so happy. This is still biased towards the north. You'll see that we get a little bit of the ground in the northern horizon, but that's fine because one of the major purposes of this camera is to catch aurora. And it's the same F ratio as the last lens. So a 60-second exposure should get us some very nice aurora if there are aurora to be seen. And yeah, I'm just, hopefully it's in focus. I spent about an hour today trying to focus the damn thing, and we'll see what happens tonight, and the results will be online tomorrow morning. So we're all excited. We're all excited. And that's it.
Can I just say something that's really exciting? If anybody actually sees some aurora, maybe if they could maybe just put it on the Kingston chat so we can so that some of us who aren't as immediately available in the northerly area there, that would be very much very exciting and much appreciated.
I suspect for at least the first little while it'll be after the fact because we don't have any kind of immediate notification, and I'm pretty sure that we will not ever again start up a telephone hotline call list where you will get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning from somebody who you don't even know or understand saying, there's aurora, there's aurora.
Yeah, right. No, I was just thinking,
Yes, that's the time you wouldn't answer your phone, remember?
Exactly.
I was just thinking communicating on the
yeah, pretty much if there is something, we'll let people know the day after, and we all follow space weather, Dr. Tamitha Scove and her predictions, and Space Weather and Space Weather Live, and all of these sites combine to give us a forecast for the upcoming day or a few days. So we'll see how it goes.
Exciting. Thanks.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to present?
Kim, I got an image.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Oh, host disabled participants.
You're too fast for me. Try it again.
Okay. Have you got?
Ooh.
So,
yes.
Unfortunately, the sky down in Chile has been a little hazy, and so you can see those halos. But I showed an image a while ago, and I said it was my hope to capture the tidal tail of NGC 3628. And so you can see it pretty clearly there. So in order to get that, I had to take 13 hours of luminance alone. But I was just processing it tonight, and I thought you guys might be interested if I followed up and showed you how I was doing with it. So that's it.
That's gorgeous.
That's amazing for sure.
That stream there is if you see my mouse is for the, I don't know if everyone was here when we were talking about it before, but so this is supposed to be all material that originated with this galaxy. It's all the way down to this edge of the frame, and it's being pulled off by gravity from another source.
I thought your black and white M81 was amazing, but that is just stunning.
Thank you.
That is good. You also posted a picture of M81 that you did just in luminance.
Yeah, it's just the beginning of that project, M81. I'm going to hopefully capture RGB tonight, and over the next night or two, if all goes according to plan, get some HA and then put it together and see if it works out. But yeah, M81 is the target tonight too.
Awesome. Well, hopefully it's going to clear. There's a little bit of scattered cloud, but it's not too bad.
Looks pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, all that little cloud that was drifting in from the north seems to be dissipating. Did Rick, you said that there was a crescent moon to see tonight after sunset?
Yep. Maybe too late already.
That'd be right about now, wouldn't it?
It's
Venus is readily visible, but the moon comes in and out of visibility. I'm trying to get it in my scope right now. And it's funny, I've been able to see Venus for a long time, but I just now in binoculars finally got a brief glimpse of a tiny crescent. So it's
yeah, it must be just
about that. It's going to go behind the roof of the observatory, so I'm trying to get it for everybody here.
It just might be almost dark enough for it to all come together, right?
I'm trying to catch the moon now. That's
what's the elevation?
Exactly what I'm doing. I'm out.
Oh, 7 degrees. Yeah, it's still 7 degrees up.
Oh.
I'm not sure I can see it. Like I saw Mercury or something.
Venus. Well, if you can see Venus, you'll see the moon, right? And then Mercury is the tough one.
Yeah, so I've seen only Mercury. I don't think I can see Venus. I even have the binoculars on.
I'm tempted to jump out there and leave.
The meeting will be ending very
if
shortly.
you need to, go right ahead. We're pretty well done for our meeting tonight anyway. So
it was very interesting about Peterborough too.
Yes.
It's a good meeting tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you to all of our presenters tonight. That was an excellent bunch of observing and work done for light pollution. And I really wish we could get all of our municipalities to use the same lighting all the way across instead of just hit and miss and what's the cheapest. So if there is nothing else to happen, I'm going to share my screen for some upcoming events. See if this works. Yep. Okay. All right. For next month, our next meeting is June 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. and the Zoom link will be sent out to all members. We're going to have Robert Bates doing globular clusters from the RASC Belleville Center. So we also needed a few more speakers. So if you have anything that you would like to present or talk about for our next meeting, please let me know via kingston@rasc.ca or my email, canadianspooky@gmail.com. That would be great. We will have what's up in the June skies and beyond, since generally in July and August, we do not have meetings, but we still will have our socials. Weekly socials are on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. and the Zoom link will be sent out by our host, Susan, who will be looking after that, and it will be provided to the Kingston members on the email list. Reminder of the RASC-GA coming up in June. Please go to the RASC.ca General Assembly page in order to get your ticket and register. And if you're not a member of the RASC-Kingston Center, please go to the secure.rasc.ca membership account, register for the Kingston Center. We are on YouTube, so look for RASC-Kingston channel. All of our past meetings are there, as well as other events and past shows from GAs are online as well. We are on Twitter at Astro-Kingston, Facebook, RASC-Kingston Center Group. And now we will have questions and chatting, and we will stop sharing and we can say goodbye to everybody on YouTube for now. And we will stop recording off YouTube.